We're live. Cool. Fun. Fabulous. You fell out of heaven because you was anxious, didn't like authority, only searched to be heinous. I love that song. It's very metaphysically honest and very thematically deep. I don't even know if I actually opened this one. This one is one of my favorites. That's a lie because I've never played it, but turn your sound up. All right. Boom, boop, 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 boop. Great fleas have little fleas upon their backs to bite them, and little fleas have lesser fleas, and so on ad infinitum. And the great fleas themselves, in turn, have greater fleas to go on. These again, and yeah, that's just the nature of reality. It's layered. Your cells, every individual cell that works in your brain thinks it's an individual. They don't recognize that their connections and relationships and their talking to each other is what constitutes you. I get. Is it a platformer? Paradox. Oh, absolutely. That's different than ours. Well, I guess this world even. You know, it's funny because we oftentimes will try and conceptualize 4 dimensions, right? And then we'll be like, bro, this is literally impossible. It's too hard. And then we'll use 2 dimensions or like allegories for what 4 dimensions would be like. Interstellar does that. Where the wormhole, if you were to take a paper, draw 2 X's on either side of the paper, and then you fold that paper and then draw a hole right through both X's, then you get a wormhole. But you translate that into 3D, 3 dimensions, and now that hole, that 2-dimensional circle, is a sphere. Wormholes are spherical holes, which makes it easier to comprehend, even though we can't comprehend the 2nd dimension either. We can only comprehend the 3rd. You can't imagine how loud. You cannot imagine what it would be like to be a 2-dimensional character in a 2 dimension. You have to imagine I have the number. Is there anywhere I can place it? Okay. What if we go the other way? Do they exist? Are they real? Who are they? It's something I can't see. It's an invisibility. It's a pattern that's there, but I'm just not recognizing it. Oh, I thought I just died. Oh, I think I did just die. Hi. Okay. So what needs to happen is something over here. So I can move in and out of that. Wait, am I back here already? Yeah, I am. Reincarnated. I was stargazing. Life goes on, honey. Oh, my babies. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm in a Kendrick mood. I need to re-listen to Mr. Morale. Because from what I remember, that was one of my favorite albums. But the first listen through was not very analytical, I should say. Die with syringes pinched at me. Reincarnated. Oh, it said turn the sound up. I have my. I have it up. What's? Maybe I'm just slow. Maybe I'm just a little stupid. All right, let's find something a little bit. Oh, I should. Let me play this one instead, because that one has a flash warning, and I don't wanna. I don't wanna be the cause of someone's ultimate demise. I like this one. I really like this one. I only ever filled out like the first Okay. This game is interesting because there is a force, an invisible reality behind your lidar it is, right? You have to then use your system of sensor detection to kind of predict where you should go. That's just how seeing works. It's a fun mechanic because you have to actively think about seeing. Am I chasing something? I'm chasing someone. That's a person, I believe. Where you at? Where'd you go? You still here? There you are. What is this? I like the different colors. Kind of like how depth works here. The colors act as like a depth explorer. This is a throne room. And this is. Oh. That is scary. Let's move these back to my AirPods. Because it scared the hell out of me. Where the hell? Hold on, y'all. I don't know why they disconnected, but that's alright. Maybe that was the thing with the other game as well. Damn, that shit is loud. Hold the fuck on. Yeah. I might go back to the other game. I do think. Whoa, you can see through it too. Oh, that's freaking sick. Hey, dude. You can see, yeah, it's the outline of a person. Are they still there? Is it as long as I'm using my LiDAR, I can't see them? Alright, so there's a wall here and I can move through that somehow. It's not a wall, it's a bar. I'm in a dungeon. I'm in a medieval dungeon, bro. Is it putting heartbeats in my ear? This game is trying to be so scary. It's just fascinating, really. It's kind of like a little bit of a deep dive into how human perception works a little bit. You have to fill in the blanks. You have to make the invisible visible. By reflecting something, you have to project something outwards in order to see that which is unseeable, to know that which is unknowable. Hey, dude. If I keep shooting at you, are you gonna stay still? I gotta follow you. Where are you going? Are you still here? Why are you going back? Is this... It feels like echolocation. How do you think echolocation feels? Feel bad. That's just gotta be so fucking, like, normal. But... which isn't really a crazy thing to assume. Oh. I didn't even know you could do that. Holy shit. That makes shit a little bit easier. It's a monkey? Hello? Where'd he go? You ran backwards, didn't you? Okay, whatever. Just explore these rooms again. Because I feel like I'm missing something. I've got to be. This is not just a demo. This is a full-fledged game. There's somewhere I need to go. There's something I need to collect. There's something. There's something here. But I don't know kind of what I'm supposed to be doing at all. Okay. Fucking speed highlight. Just get everything in one fell swoop. Alright. There looks to be an opening here. It's like I'm walking through space. This is sick. Let me turn off that ring light because that is bright and distracting. What's the green bar at the bottom? I make it go back by holding on to the thingy. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep holding on to this. It's a maze. Is my goal to just get out as quickly as possible? I just died. Oh, it's your stamina. What killed me? I still barely understand what's going on. Not a memory. Okay. Here's something that might be able to help. Is that a pattern? Okay. Does this pattern need to be recreated? No, it's just a chair. I don't have any chat yet, so I can ask you guys for help because you guys aren't even here. This makes me a little bit feel a little dumb. I'm not gonna lie. Chat. Put that over here. I put 100. I get 100 institutions paid. Hold on, I'm setting up OBS so I can see chat. If there was one. 0 concurrent viewers. But I gotta get used to just keeping on talking extemporaneously. I don't want to walk down there because I feel like I've already been there. Actually, this connects into this room. So now I'm on this side of the wall. And that's an opening into that part of the castle. Just keep that up there. That's a creature. There's something else in here. There's someone else with me. I'm not alone. I knew that, but... Okay. Let me find the blue guy. Let's just follow that guy. Alright, here's the castle room, I guess. And if I go here, here's where I met the creature. Let me just keep shooting. Where is it? Where is it? It's right there. It's right there. It's coming after me. Okay. Is it still there? Sorry, I'm seeing a red dot and I'm getting so scared. These hallways are kind of beautiful. Holy shit! That's funny. Okay, here's blue guy. Blue guy, where are you taking me? You still there? Blue guy. Hey. Yeah, don't leave me. You're still there, right? Okay. Well, I get this. You just change form completely? Oh, you're crouching. Okay. Why can I run at the same speed when I'm crouching? I don't know. Is this me? No. Not because metaphysically it couldn't be. Just because, like, there's no way for that to have been a predictable mode of... I mean, sure, it influenced me. I guess it is a part of me in some metaphysical sense, that idea. Yes, I agree in that front. But... like the fact that it like it coded the character. Are you turning in or are you staying? Where are you going? Do you plan to do anything? Or you just plan to just be there Are there multiple of you? Vertical. You can kind of see constellations out of these, which I think is really pretty. Oh, there's Orion. Right there. I don't know if you could see, just like in the smack dab in the middle of my screen almost. That's my favorite constellation too, so. But I guess that's also coincidence, astrology, I guess. Boom. Is there a baddie here? Is there a baddie here? Are we the baddies? Okay. Keep it moving. Gotta get around the pit. The spikes around it. Don't really need to look at the ceiling. Oh, I'm dead. That's why. I'm out of... What is this? It's a table. I guess I can explore around blind a little bit. For a couple seconds at least. At least until I hear the heartbeats. I wanted you to know that I am ready to go. Heartbeat, my heartbeat. This is a great sign. That's a rune? What am I playing, bro? Let's see. Alright. Explore this chamber. Let's just... Okay, can't go there. Why am I in the middle of a medieval castle with a freaking LiDAR gun getting chased by ghosts? What are essentially ghosts? Can I go? No, I can't go through. I gotta go back. See. Now, how do I get over there is the question. How do I get through? Because that's a door. Very clearly a door. Very, very clearly. Here's another pathway. It kind of looked like a dead end for a second, but you know me, I never give up hope. Okay. So those are dangerous. Just gotta avoid those. I don't know what this room is. I heard it. I heard it. I'm getting the hell out of here, bro. I'm getting gone. I love walking through space. This is beautiful. This is genuine. Did you see him? Alright, he's gone. Holy shit, 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 holy shit. Why is he right there? Freaking leave! Leave, 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 leave. dear God. Alright, I'm going. If he's still there, I might as well. Right, like, I've lost the battle at that point. I'm done. Okay. Here's another room. Going through. Kind of just the motions here. Another rune. What does this one look like? Kind of like a little chicken leg. Is this like a Viking castle? There was nothing else in that hallway? The whole last hallway? What was I supposed to do in there? What was the point of being in here? I think where I see the other guy might smell. Here's another rune. It looks like either the number 9 or the letter... The number 9 or the number 6. Oh, it's a jail cell. Here's another cell. Now I'm in, like, the actual dungeon. Shit. Where is it? 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 Is it gone? There's a doorway here. I've been down there. Alright. I'm leaving. No more dungeon for me. I don't like dungeons. No, bro. I was literally just here. Path out is this way, I guess. Which I guess is the path back. Oh, the things on the side are like torches. Here's another thingamabob. Thingamajogger. Here's another path. Does it tell me anything? Where? Okay. I'm not accomplishing anything. My amygdala is too active. I need to turn this thing from fear into curiosity, I suppose. What's the hurdle here for? This looks like an Olympic hurdle. Another table. Is this a demo game? Because if it is, I'm going to be severely disappointed. I do think I've been down here. Wait. Yeah, I have been here. I've been down there. I do kind of favor moving in is an interesting game mechanic, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. But I do think that is just a me problem. Because other people here. Hey, you can kill me. It's okay. At least now that I've got my sound working, I could probably play this one and have a slightly easier time. Hello? Why is it playing outside my headphones again? That's not ideal. Alright. Alright, turning off this music. Yes. That's not what I meant, but okay. Play game. Turn up your sound. Click here to skip. Not recommended. You don't get to tell me what to do. Yep, build up everything from layers and layers and layers. But also there's dreams, there's like reality layers as well. That I feel like dreams are Augustus de Morgan. Dreams are people moving through kind of like a layer of reality that is beneath us, kind of. Whereas our layer of reality would be kind of the dream of God, or I guess you could say like a layer of simulations, or I guess simulacra. I just started reading a book called Simulation and Simulacra by Jean Bouillard, and it's dense. It might just be the translation that I'm reading. I might have to read it in its original French, if I can learn French all the way. But yeah, I get it. I just have to reread the same 6 paragraphs over and over again. Which again, might just be a me thing. I might be a lot stupider than I think I am. Which I'll openly admit to. I tend to think I'm smarter than I am. And then I get humbled. And then I'm like, oh wait, I'm not that smart. And I kind of prefer that. I prefer that dichotomy than others that I've seen. If I click these, does something happen? So far, all this sound is making me want to do is turn my sound back off. This can't be reality, could it? Oh, the concept of a simulacrum. I guess I should have explained what that is. It's the... Well, I am literally, like, not even, like, a good way through the first part of the book, so I guess maybe I shouldn't speak on exactly what that idea is, because I don't really have the best grasp on it just yet. Writers of metaphysical topics tend to do this thing where they, like, will build up this whole concept in your head, and then will, like, do a whole ass crypto rug pull, but for, like, simulation theory or whatever. And I don't know why. I've got some writing of my own to do. Alright. Yeah, that's just what happens there. Because that's the... Oh! What the flip? Does that mean I didn't need to have my sound on? Let me turn that stuff off, bro. Because that's annoying. I guess I just didn't walk in all the way. I am just stupid. Okay. Oh, dude, this is sick. Paradox. Click it. I just moved somewhere. Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't move at all. Just flipped the world upside down. That's all that happened there. Holy freak, dude. Holy freak, Bob. Alright. Now we get on this way. change the color back to blue. The birds, why are you playing this game? Because I want something to do with people to talk to and ideas to convey. And are you your own imagination, a brain in a jar? What are you? What's your purpose? To explore, to learn, to grow, to love, all of the above. What's purpose? What is anything's purpose? What is real? What is purpose? Yeah, there we go. I was just about to ask. What is purpose? This game is really asking the right questions. What is purpose? No, let's think on that. What is purpose? My initial reaction is just to, well, I'll be entirely honest. My initial reaction was just to talk until I had an idea, and then I could try and explain that idea as I'm having it, or as it's being downloaded, I should say. What is purpose? It's a drive. It's kind of like, it's not just what motivates you. It's kind of the force of motivation itself. It's pushing things. It's attracting. Kind of like it like a force, an energy. I'm unsure. If we can go side to side, can we go up and down? If I just keep going left and right, will anything change? Yes, it was very smooth. I can jump, can't I? Hmm. These character models are having a lot of fun, aren't they? Purpose is a process. It has similar qualities to the idea of like the unknown, or like information that has not been revealed yet, right? That's kind of that same ethos of purpose, right? I've been meaning to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy so I can get the 42 is the meaning of everything. I've heard that before many times, and apparently it's a good book, and I've been meaning to read it. Probably not the most metaphysically like crazy story in the world, but um, or maybe it is. I don't know. When I get the chance to read it, I will. But my point in bringing that up was the idea that the meaning of life is so elusive to us, right? The main question of like living is, why am I here? What is my purpose? Right? It's an exploration of that theme, which is kind of the concept of doing living, of doing being here. The purpose is to answer the question. And you only answer the question once you find what it's actually asking. What is the meaning of life is no different to understand. It's no different to understand what is the meaning, what's my purpose, and to understand what is meaning and what is purpose. Meaning Meaning means both like your, I guess, in the sense of the meaning of life and like its definitional sense, right? In the same way that definitional sense meaning as in to define. Meaning is the word that we use to say, oh yeah, this is how we define that. This is how we actualize that, right? In the same way that the LiDAR scanner in the other game was defining else, right? That's this idea we see in like concepts like absurdism, right? Where I guess technically there was not really like a wall there, but as soon as we defined it, right, then we could understand exactly what was going on. Then we could find definition in the world. It was higher quality. We could understand it. We could see it. It was defined. It was definite. It was real. Before it was kind of illusory. If you don't know where to start when answering a question and just trying to rationalize it, right? Do like any other proof or any other concepts, right? And just try and find pieces of information that fit. Just look for pieces of information that might be useful and make sure you explore every aspect on that in order to at least have a running start into how to approach even the question and how to solve it, obviously. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3. Why is this one missing? What's the significance there? We did move through that wall. I don't know why we moved through the wall but not the other one. There's a pattern missing here. Information, pattern, whatever, all that. New age hippy dippy mumbo jumbo. The new age spiritual rigmarole. Consciousness is everything. It flows through the fabric of reality. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. I did want to just at least say this so it's not like not said that panentheism, I'm gonna debate this with like somebody eventually, but panentheism is the only way that God can exist. That the Christian God are like, or I guess even Allah or like any sort of um all powerful, all sovereign, omniscient, right? Not just omnipresent, omniscient. Okay. No. Any sort of omniscient being, sorry, any sort of omniscient being that knows everything has to be omnipresent, right? And so that's kind of omni, oxymoronic, right? The reason being, empirical um, information is like a form of information, is a form of knowledge. To know something from experience is just as real as to know something from rationality, and to know something from um, like being told or something like that, right? All of these different forms of knowledge are forms of knowledge. God has had revelation um, to God, right? Who is revealing to God? God, I guess. these paradoxes don't really apply when you're talking about a being outside of being itself, but right. But omniscience, in order for a being to be completely omniscient, they have to have experienced everything, because that is also a form of knowledge, right? And that is everything, not just every human, every animal, every plant, every rock, right? All of those little experiences, your experience of being you right now as well, right? All of these are like constituted in the concept of what it would mean to be God, is to have all of those experiences, to explore every single possible path, to make sure that every single idea and feeling and bit of information is fully exhausted. You have to learn everything in order to be God. And God had always had known everything and also had to learn through that process at the same time. God is a God of paradoxes. Specifically, I'd say Jesus Christ is also a paradox kind of figure. Christ exists at the intersection of opposites, where um, parallels become perpendicular, where you see something that kind of feels like the universe is folding in on itself, right? How can how can 5,000 eat off of just two fish and three loaves? And he does it more than once, right? There are in Matthew, at least, there are two separate like occasions of him feeding thousands of people with like a small amount of bread, and I think it's two fish every time, probably. I don't know. I haven't read Matthew in a hot minute, but yeah, that's what was going on, right? But you also find him in hold on, I had a list of synchronicities that were okay. Here's the, I guess, not duality, but the structure for things that I've seen, where you see a pair of opposites. You have short and long, right? You have an intersection, which would be medium length, but then you have a superstructure, like you have just length in general, right? Masculine versus feminine, right? Polar opposites. You have the neuter, right, which is where the intersection, or I guess the multi-gender. There's a lot of places you could take that, where in terms of that intersection. Then you have the superstructure. You have human, right? Uh, you have genuine spirituality versus psychedelia, right? Um, where they meet, where those concepts meet, is in the idea of like integration, where you have to reintegrate things, right? And then the superstructure, you have the divine, right? Um, I have a lot of dualities that are kind of just I have them listed. Oh, here's a good one. You have the demiurge versus Lucifer, right? At the overarching structure would be Abraxas, right? And the intersection where they meet is in evil, right? Um, Yin versus Yang. The superstructure would be the Tao in general, um, the Tao, I should say, and like the intersection would be anywhere that you find duality, right? Where you find um, confliction. I kind of forget why I was talking about that. Oh yeah, because I was saying it was Jesus, but yes, That's it. It's specifically at the intersection because that's why they call it a cross, right? And back to God being omniscient, right? Let me just read something I wrote. God knows absolutely everything. That includes all subjective, empirical knowledge. God has experienced everything that there is to experience, including being you right now, ever present, watching through every pair of eyes and experience what it is to be human, animal, rock, air, or the entire earth, or even that which you could never imagine. If God had not experienced all of these things, then God would not be omnipotent, as whatever had experienced those things would have knowledge that God does not. Every moment, every timeline, every dream, every reality, even the realities where God doesn't exist, God is always watching, God is always there through everything, pervasive, like a ghostly observer. Notice that word observer. That's how consciousness is described in a lot of major religions. I guess you could say even like Gnosticism, barely, but mostly talking about like Eastern philosophies and that. And also, this ties them all together because if every reality is just a different expression of God searching for through everything, just for everything's sake, for the sake of doing, if God just does everything for the sake of doing, right? Then how can we say one reality is more real than another? Every reality is real, and if every reality is like physically real, that means like every comic book reality, every like multiverse that you've ever seen, every dream you've ever had, all of that is just as real, right? And if all of that is real, then that means every subjective truth is just as true. Everything is true. These are the implications that arise from just the idea that God is omniscient. If God were not omniscient, none of this would be knowable. But from that single assumption, you can build entire like scaffolding, and that's a pretty like rock solid like base structure. Except for the fact that like under that assumption, yes, it's completely rock solid. But take away that assumption and it's not there. It's like under the assumption that it's true, it is absolutely valid and actually super supports itself so much into that structure that where it isn't true, like it also becomes true, and that is used as evidence for itself being true, right? And then under the assumption that it's not true, none of it exists at all, and it's all just imaginary and doesn't exist, and it's just made up, right? Which feeds into that, because that also would be a reality that is real, right? It does. Under the assumption that it's not real, it doesn't become unreal as just saying there is no God. To say there is no God and like to have that full conviction absolutely kills the concept of God to you, right? Atheists are fully convicted to it's like I don't maybe I wish I could believe, but I just don't. That's just not how my brain works. But under this framework, even the most atheist you can get under this framework is agnostic. Or you could say God doesn't exist in this universe, which, again, only fits into that entire superstructure. Everything is true. The superjective. And then you have to reintegrate this tapestry of all truths being true, right? And it's like People might refute that specifically. We'll look at everything else and say, okay, yeah, but like you can't conclude then that everything is true, because that is an illogical thing to understand. To that that that's a paradox. It's not true. It doesn't make sense. But the more that you think about it, the more that you relate and replay that thought in your head over and over and over and over again, the more it kind of forces itself to be true. If everything is true, including that nothing is true, then how can you ever say that that's wrong? Because it both exists and doesn't exist within its own structure. It exists in some sort of superposition, in some sort of multi-stated fashion, which would have to be the case because God as a singular being, right? As a singular everything, the eternal now, the eternal just pervasive experience of being, of consciousness under that, I guess, panpsychic understanding, right? I lost my thought mid speech, like mid sentence. I don't know where it went. Huh. All I remember saying was under that panpsychic understanding of God. Maybe I'm just tired because I haven't even been playing the game. I've just been talking. I think one practical application we could have to the basic the let's reel it all the way back in, right? Let's keep it sane for now. Under the basic idea that the universe is like is structurally like layered, right? Under that assumption, right? Your cells think they're individuals and then they talk to each other and out comes you, right? Or um little bits in your transistors in your computer will switch on and off and then will tell each other all that information, and then boom, out comes a whole roblox game or whatever, right? Under that understanding, you can put humans on that level, right? And make larger organs of, I guess, ideologies, ideas, or systems of organizing our societies, right? And you could say these are kind of like the organs of the earth, right? And from that understanding, it's like one single white blood cell couldn't eradicate a whole invasion, a viral like idea, or like couldn't fight cancer in and of itself, right? You need something else. You need something on its level where if you want to fight capitalism, right, you can't just do that by just killing capitalism. You need to, because that will just lead to a lot of pain and suffering and hurts in the transitional period, right? You need to have an existing societal structure there and compete with it. You have to you have to engage with the marketplace of ideas as if it was a sincere like conception. You have to put out a competing system. Competition is the only language they understand, right? And I think making sure it stays peaceful, that way there is no excuse for us getting bombed in the process if that were to be the case, right? But putting out an existing competing societal structure that goes alongside capitalism, um, and then eventually like supersedes it should be our goal. Um, I have an anarcho-syndicalist like vision of what the future could look like. I call it communal syndicalism, and I just put a name to it just so that it's like it has something tangible for people to put like their ideas into. But the only like most of this is theory that's been theorized, right? It's stuff that's been talked about. I guess I have explanations on what it is. I have a little short. I have a TikTok on it. But basically, it's a system of localized worker-owned communities organizing around a collective production of goods. Each business or community operates as a cooperative effort. Specifically, it has to be a worker cooperative as we understand them today, or maybe a little bit more socialist, right? Where individuals collaborate to create a single or series of products, primarily for trade with other communities, but can also be sold for resources into the capitalist society, just to give them a something to stand on before we can build the scaffolding of just communities to trade in between. If we were to have enough communities like that, you wouldn't even need money to trade in between. You'd literally just say, "Hey, can we get some eggs over here?" "Yeah, sure. We actually needed a couple carpenters. Can you send them over?" It's like, "Yeah, sure, gotcha." Right? These communities work as like superstructures of human beings. They work as kind of organisms of human beings working together and then building some larger organistic network of communities. They prioritize self-sufficiency and shared resources, eliminating class hierarchies and integrating work with daily life to ensure well-being of every single member. Rather than a worker town, this is a union town, right? No boss, no one to negotiate with. All of you collectively are the boss, right? That's the difference, right? When you just get rid of the boss and just have the laborer dynamic, then people will be like, "What? Where the hell are you gonna get like your your stuff from? You gotta get paid in that, right? Or even if you're not getting paid, like at least the slaves had the slave masters to feed them or whatever, which is a crazy take to have, but I've seen that, right? Um, no, it's you just merge the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. You just say, yes, the proletariat are now the ones in charge of the capital. The proletariat are the bourgeoisie. Um, that's what Marxism is. It's a synergism, a synthesis, a synthesization. And when you have this societal structure placed alongside the capitalist societal structure, and then you, um, given that people will see that, and people who have like sympathies and are interested in like genuinely contributing to communities like this would be so very like excited to contribute to that, right? And from that, we understand that people are going to start to flock. And if that wasn't the case, if people just didn't flock for whatever reason, um, the group of people that would be there, right, would spread the word. There would still be some sort of growth, and in that slow growth, you can accumulate capital and resources and whatnot as a community because again, you're pulling all of the resources and surplus value that you create in order to help your community, right? You take some of that surplus value and you fund a single local clinic. And then people are going to see that and are going to be like, wow, that's awesome. I don't have to pay for anything now because everything here in this like clinic here that like my doctor's a part of and all this else, right, is just being paid for by these guys, these people. No strings attached. It has to be no strings attached. Has to be unconditional fully, right? Has to be like, yeah, we'll just give you this money. That we don't want anything of you. We don't want to lobby you. We're not trying to bribe you. We just want you guys to be able to do your job, right? That has to be the way that that works, or else it doesn't work at all. We cannot leverage any power. There's no power to be leveraged. And from there, because people are, if people see that, and we make sure we send out our own propaganda to counteract the propaganda that's going to come out of there, come from the Western world, seeing that will push growth. And the more clinics and or like organizations that we're able to fund, right, in these networks, right, and near these networks, right, the more that is going to grow, right? It builds itself, right? It's a self-sustaining thing. And because these groups, especially now, would have to start mainly agriculturally, right? And then because we already have a lot of infrastructure for making other goods, it wouldn't be so hard to go from like an agricultural like society of just networks of communities working together and then overtake that as just like people living in like houses and doing like farm work for each other, making sure that everyone has surplus food, and then taking those existing resources that we have and repurposing that into having communities that would make like film communities or have like education communities, kind of like libraries almost, like resource libraries for whatever you want, right? Or like resource schools. You could have people who are just like super experts in how to make film, and then they'll teach courses on how to make film in the film communities, right? And I go back to film just because that's like my passion, right? But I'm probably just gonna end up being a writer or something because I don't necessarily have the capacity to be able to do that right now, as it is the case that my main goal is to fight fascism right now. And I don't necessarily have the resources to be able to make the films that I want to make right now, which is why I want to push for this, because in the understanding that maybe I'll never be able to make those sorts of films, I want someone else to be able to have that opportunity. Someone else who comes from my background, someone else that is kind of like that. I'm really just yapping. I'm really just yapping. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here in this game. I didn't have a single view of this stream. And I think that's fine. That's okay. I'm not mad at that. I just like talking. Kind of just wish I had people to talk to. All right. I think that's That's a pretty good place to end it.